And welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Micah chapters 4 through 7.
And we're finishing the book.
We are just powering through the Old Testament right now.
It's not hard.
But we're doing it anyways.
Yeah, we are. So these chapters...
Yeah, there's a good deal to say about the connection of these chapters to the ones preceding it. So I guess I should talk about it a little bit. But first, what version do you have?
I have the King James version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard version of the Bible.
It's there off screen.
I'll just put it right here.
We also have the Old Testament according to some Jews in the New King James version of the Bible.
We have Robert Alter's commentary and translation of the Hebrew Bible. We have Erdman's commentary on the Bible, and we have from the exegetical commentary series, Amos, Jonah, and Micah from Joanna M. Hoyt.
Yes.
So we have, more liberal scholars here and a more conservative one. So we're going to take these opinions and we're going to read the book and then we're going to see how we feel about it.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so on the connection of these chapters to the preceding ones.
Right, because the previous chapters are the ones that scholars agree are like legitimate or at least part of a single source.
Yeah.
Right.
So this, however, after reading, this is from Hoyt here, after reading chapter 3, chapters 4 and 5 can seem hopelessly out of place. Chapter 3 ends with a promise of coming judgment because of the people's covenant unfaithfulness. Then, suddenly, Micah presents a long, detailed hope oracle in chapters 4 and 5. Because of this sudden shift, many scholars attribute this hope oracle to a different author and a later time. Requiring a prophet to proclaim either judgment or hope, but not both, limits their freedom to share the full range of Yahweh's truth. So, of course, this is the more conservative view here.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the Erdman's commentary, they did note that this kind of goes back and forth between, like, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, right?
Yeah.
So,
and the thing is, like, having a judgment and a hope oracle isn't all that uncommon.
Right.
Like you have those popping up in other prophets as well. But I guess not quite like this, which is why it's distinguished.
Well, even like individual laments will hop between the two at times.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a section here out of Erdman's. So yeah, on the beginning of this chapter, did Micah say nothing more? Many interpreters believe that his words end at 3:12, whereas I will argue that they resume at 5:2. What intervenes is undoubtedly the work of later editors, and 4:1 through 3 is, in any case, almost identical with Isaiah 2:2 through 4. While it has been argued that the Isaiah passage is dependent on that in Micah and vice versa, and Micah 4:4 certainly seems to provide a better conclusion to the whole passage. The likelihood is that editors have added the passage in both Micah and Isaiah. At first sight, the passage seems to contradict what precedes it. Micah envisages a destroyed temple that is never rebuilt. 4:1 mentions the mountain of the house as though rebuilt. This can be explained in two ways. First, the temple was destroyed in 587 BC, but later rebuilt in 515. Perhaps the editors are saying that Micah was right about the temple being destroyed, but wrong about it not being rebuilt. The second explanation takes us deeper. The temple described in 4:1 through 4 is not a Zion rebuilt by humans, but a Zion created by God. It is built not on violence and corruption, but on desire of the nations to learn God's laws and to replace the weapons of war with agricultural tools symbolizing peace. There is thus a profound contrast between the human Zion of chapter 3 and the divine Zion of 4:1 through 4. This latter Zion is one which it can be truly said that God is with it. And It is for this reason that nations will want to make pilgrimage there and long for its God to arbitrate their disputes. It is a noble passage in its own right, but one whose sublimity is enhanced when placed next to the harsh and violent language used by Micah in chapter 3. The editors have thus created a way of enabling both passages to be appreciated in a new way.
You're sure that later Zion isn't just modern Israel?
Well, I don't know if it would be the second temple, but not modern Israel.
Oh, shit.
Because it was destroyed again.
Yeah. Wait until the third temple comes around.
Yeah, that's when everything's going to change, when the third temple comes around.
Or the fourth temple. Or the fifth.
One of them's got to get it right.
Yeah, one of them
Give it a
here.
go. It'll be 47, maybe.
Well, you see, they all talk about the third temple, but, there's already the Dome of the Rock, which is a temple in the spot.
Yeah, that's true. Man,
Unnumbered.
the amount of there's a lot of musical chairs, I guess you could say, with the Dome of the Rock. So we can hop into this reading.
All right, I'll get started on 2nd Micah, basically, because this is completely, nobody thinks this is connected to the previous chapters. Chapter 4.
It might come back in chapter 5.
Hoyt might.
Yeah, Hoyt. And also, Alter does have some words on this.
Okay.
So he mentions, of course, how it's almost exactly the same to Isaiah 2:2-4. Then he talks about the possible explanations of one borrowing from the other. Different explanations have been offered for the duplication that Micah borrowed from Isaiah, that Isaiah borrowed from Micah, that both drew on a common source, or that a later editor inserted the passage in both books. Although, in contrast to what we just read in Erdman's, he says that this last alternative seems the least likely.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
Why is that?
And an unknown common source is merely a conjectural hypothesis. Fair enough. These two prophets were roughly... Okay, so he does think it's from a different author, but... Oh, no, sorry. He's talking about Micah and Isaiah. Were roughly contemporaneous, but given the fact that Isaiah was the more prominent figure, see, for example, the narrative in 2 Kings 20, where the king turns to him at a moment of crisis, it may be more plausible that Micah took from Isaiah. Scrolls of the prophecies evidently had some circulation in the prophet's lifetime. One point where there are two small additions as well as a substituted term in Micah may provide a clue. Verse 3 reads, "And he shall judge among many peoples and be arbiter to vast nations from far away." In Isaiah, it is, "And he shall judge among the nations and be arbiter for many people." Micah adds many in the first verse set, heightens many to vast in the second, and inserts far away at the end. By and large, this kind of amplification is a telltale sign of adopting and improving a pre-existing text. Otherwise, since there's no substantive divergences between the two passages, the comments on Isaiah will be repeated here.
All right. So that's an argument in favor of it taking from Isaiah. So let me hop into chapter 4, unless you have more to add.
No, that's pretty much it for that.
All right. Chapter 4. "But in the last days it shall come to pass, that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. And many nations shall come and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more."
So that was the end of
verse 3.
Yeah, verse 3.
Yeah. Of course, that comes from Isaiah.
Right, and you have this kind of like call for an end of war, I guess, or I guess a hope for an end of war. Good luck with that.
One could also say this was also inserted into Isaiah. Not that it's from either one.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was the argument. Like,
yeah, I heard.
Yeah, the arguments from before. Yeah,
I'm just feeling that more.
Well, I mean, let's see what some people have to say about this, right? So that was verse 3. I'm going to make sure I have all the proper commentary pulled up. So it seems like Hoyt has a lot of textual notes, mostly kind of figuring out these weapons of war, which I don't really think are too
it's
too
not
critical
really
to this.
Critical. No.
So Alter says, God's teaching from Zion then is to have the effect of inaugurating a reign of universal peace. There is an imaginative boldness, or perhaps rather the courage of desperation, in this vision because it was articulated at a historical moment of continual warfare among imperial powers when the land of Israel itself was threatened with destruction by Assyria.
What kind of a spear can you beat into a pruning hook? Like, you think of a spear, and it has like a leaf design almost to the blade, right? And it's not a particularly long blade.
Dude, I don't know, man.
There's more than one spear. Just actually reforge them. I don't know.
No, it says that it gets beaten into that. So, but there's not like enough metal to make an effective pruning hook.
So
you don't know.
These people reshape their instruments of war into instruments of peace and work. These tools would have been made out of soft iron, which can be heated up and reshaped into whatever tool is needed. The focus of this verse, and of course the corresponding one in Isaiah, is that the resulting instruments are not for harming others. Okay, so yeah, it's turning all that war into productiveness for society.
And we're not going to drop the titles of the various commentaries and other books because, one, it helps us buy time for people to get in here, and two, it allows us to cite our sources right off the bat.
Oh, yeah. We when we do it at the start of the show.
Yeah. But they shall sit, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts hath spoken it. For all people will walk every one in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. In that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, her that I have afflicted.
It's interesting that they're kind of showing this peace among differing religions, it looks like. So yeah, for all the people shall walk each in the name of his God, but we shall walk in the name of the Lord our God. And of course, with this peace talk before, it seems like they're suggesting peace, although alternatively, this could be like they're going to be evil and we're going to be good, and that might set something up. So this sentence, which appears to express the idea that polytheism will persist, I don't know about polytheism, but I guess like their polytheism, right? Mm-hmm. However much the nations take instruction from Zion is not present in Isaiah.
Is there any commentary in Hoyt on the switch to female pronouns in verse 6?
In verse 6.
Right, because so in verse 4, it's every man under his fig tree. Now in verse 6, it's will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. So is this a reference to Zion? Or because usually when they refer to the city, they use the female pronouns.
Yeah, so that would make sense. However, I guess the translation here is different. So just to make sure, this for verse 6, on that day, said the Lord, I will gather the lame one, and the outcast I will take in, and to whom I did harm.
Oh.
That's is that your verse 6? Except with
In that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted.
So yeah, there are no notes there on the pronoun in altar, I should say.
One would think that it's purposeful, though.
You would think, though, yeah.
Yeah. And yes, Lawrence could totally put all of the titles of the commentaries that we use in the description for the episodes.
Yeah, I guess I could do that.
You definitely
It's possible,
could.
yeah.
Is he going to?
I don't know. If I remember, I might.
Okay.
Remind Lawrence 7 more times. Not now.
I'll yell at him for
Has
you.
to be 7 times, though. Otherwise, I'll just never remember.
You told me that.
We need to light 7 lamps at dawn when there's an earthquake.
And see some dragons, and then maybe Lawrence will remember.
Yeah, Lawrence will remember then.
If I see the dragons, I'll know.
Yep.
Wow.
Also, it does not look like there's any commentary there on the pronoun that's used.
That's strange. Maybe it's just a KJV thing.
Damn it, KJV.
Yeah.
Getting in the way again.
Oh, look, dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Damn KJV getting in the way.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with it, man. It randomly uses different pronouns. It has dragons where there should be hyenas and
Jackals, yeah.
Like, this is a very strange book. And I will make her that halteth a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. And thou, O tower of the flock, this stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. What is being referenced here? Unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem.
So, and you, watchtower of the flock, rampart of Zion's daughter, to you shall come the former kingdom, and the kingship of Jerusalem's daughter shall arrive. So I mean that's not helpful there. It just talks about the word pairing of, coming and arriving. And that is what, verse 8, right?
That is verse 8.
So they are first.
Eerdman says that the situation in verse 8 is one of disadvantage to Zion. Is the city destroyed, but she is promised that she will enjoy her former power and independence.
Yeah, by addressing the audience with second-person pronouns, Micah moves from talking about a future hope for those who are lame and banished to giving the people standing in front of him hope for the future kingdom. Both hopes are a distant future to his audience, but this hope is presented more directly to the audience. This oracle is directly addressed to the faithful Israelites, those who identify with Jerusalem and its place within Yahweh's kingdom, focusing on the rule of Jerusalem.
Okay.
They are first addressed as a flock tower, that is a tower for observation of the flock, or shepherd's tower. So attempts to identify the flock tower have led to several proposed interpretations, but all center on Bethlehem. This phrase, I mean, that's interesting. Bethlehem there? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This phrase also occurs in Genesis 35:21, which places its location between Bethel and Bethlehem near Jerusalem. Because of its use in Genesis, this phrase is sometimes understood as a place name, Migdal Eder. Migdal Eder was likely near Jerusalem and close to Bethlehem. Kaiser interprets this as a metonymy, right, for David's birthplace. When this line is read in parallel with the following line, this phrase is synonymous with hill of the daughter of Zion, that is Jerusalem.
Okay. Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies.
Yeah, so now we just kind of turn everything back around.
Right, we're getting back to this. I mean, it's similar with a bunch of the prophets who were leading up to, in the story, leading up to the Babylonian invasion.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, like, he's saying you're going to go out there and there you'll be redeemed, presumably when Ezra comes around.
Right. So the note here, some of the language of 4... Oh, we haven't gotten to 4:13 yet.
No, that's the last verse of the...
Okay, finish that off and then we'll...
Okay. Now also many nations that are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they his counsel. For he shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people. And I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth.
Huh. All right, interesting last verse there. So I will make your horn like iron. So, of course, horn being strength. Mm-hmm. Here, the dead metaphor is revived by the addition of the hooves in the next verse. Thus Zion's daughter is turned into an ox or bull performing the threshing. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So we still kind
of
have...
ball.
Yeah, right. I definitely flipped too many pages there. All right. So, yeah, let's talk about that that verse there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the point seems to be that they'll be made strong and beat people.
Right? I mean, essentially.
Whoa.
Yeah. So some of the language of 4:13 is very similar to that in Isaiah 41:15 through 16, and the mention of Babylon in 4:10 suggests that the material comes from the century after Micah. The precise situation cannot be determined. Does the phrase, is there no king in you, mean that there is still a king? Or is the sense, is it because there is no king in you? In the first instance, Jerusalem may be surrounded by the Babylonian armies. In the second case, the city's capture lies in the past. If 5:1 is an integral part of the passage, then an actual siege seems to be in progress. However, 5:1 contains word plays. For example, with a rod, they strike the ruler. It has, with a rod, shabet, they strike the ruler, shopet. That are reminiscent of 1:10 through 16, and there is a strong possibility that material deriving from Micah, which foresaw Jerusalem's siege, has been worked over and adapted to the later times of the actual siege. And of course, this is one of the cases where I think Hoyt goes with, well, you're just assuming that God can't give these oracles, and I'm like, well, yeah, sorry, that's how it works in history. Like, people can believe whatever they want about the past, or whatever they are convinced of about the past, but history itself is a secular study, and you can't really assume that. Mm-hmm. But because if you do assume that stuff, you have to include the other prophecies from the other religions,
right?
The other oracles. Yeah, and that, I don't think you'd want to do that.
Well, you can tell who's a false prophet by seeing if their predictions come true.
That's true.
Yep.
Or you just get told that they're a false prophet and you go with it. So one thing. So did the KJV there? Mm-hmm. And it ended on verse 13, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the Hebrew, it is a little bit different. So in the Hebrew, it ends with verse 14.
Now gather thyself in troops, The daughter of troops. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first verse in the next chapter.
Yeah, exactly. So in the Hebrew, it is a little bit different where it ends at verse 14 there, and then it goes on. So we're going to be one off there. Might be a little annoying, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to hand this over to you then.
Yes.
And hey, if you guys are enjoying the stream so far, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, all that good stuff. Make sure to share it around. You can just drop the link in your Facebooks and your Telegrams and your TikToks and your other social medias.
Though I will note that Alter points out for verse 14 that the verse clearly does not belong to the preceding passage, which is a prophecy of triumphal redemption, whereas this is a prophecy of doom.
Great. I love Doom.
It's a good game.
I haven't actually played Doom.
You've never played Doom?
No, I know it's really popular and a lot of people have played it and it's been around for a long time, but I've never played Doom.
You should play Doom. And then you should read Dune. And then you should watch Dune.
Oh, what should I do after that?
There's a lot of sequels to Dune. But there's also more Doom games.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the guys that
Doom.
That make the Fallout role-playing game made a Dune role-playing game.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna go into chapter 5 then. How about that?
You better.
Now muster your troops, O daughter of troops. That was kind of dumb. That can't be
Yeah,
it.
so Alter translates this as now gash yourself, Gashing's daughter. He notes the phrase bat gedud is peculiar. Normally, gedud means troop, but immediately following the verb tit godedi here, it would have to refer to gashing. Perhaps a pun is intended. Zion's daughter, now mourning, has become the troops' daughter, subject to the ravages of the invading forces.
Okay, so they're talking about the troops of the city there. Okay.
Are they?
I guess they would, right?
They're talking to Zion being like a woman subject to the ravaging.
Right, so they have to gather the troops.
Yeah.
Okay. Siege is laid against us. With a rod they strike the judge of Israel on the cheek. But you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah. What?
This is David's hometown, and so the idea of a ruler coming forth from this place is a signal of the future continuity of the Davidic dynasty.
Oh, okay.
I also want to note, as we get into it here, that this passage is probably one of the two best-known parts of Micah, the other being 6:6-8, because it's quoted in Matthew 2:6 and read regularly at Christmas in connection with the visit of the Magi to Bethlehem. It's usually dated to the exile or later, and it cannot be denied that 5:4 is similar to Isaiah 40:11, and that the exilic setting would be appropriate. It's arguable, however, that 5:2, which you'll get into shortly, because this is based off of the 14 verse chapter 4.
Mm-hmm.
5:2 derives from Micah, and that it originally followed 3:12. Or even 5:1, for it has to be asked how the prophet conceived the existence of God's people following his vision of Jerusalem's destruction. A plausible answer would be that he foresaw a new beginning based on Bethlehem, the true city of David. This would certainly be consistent with Micah's situation as an inhabitant of provincial southern Judah. Ephrathah in this verse refers to a clan that lived in Bethlehem of Judah. See Ruth 1:2 to distinguish the town from another Bethlehem in Joshua 19:15, some 7 miles northwest of Nazareth.
Well, that's just confusing.
Yeah, this detail, which presumably would make sense only if the northern kingdom still existed or had only recently been overrun, may be a further reason for connecting the verse with Micah himself. It may also be the case that Micah expected the unnamed ruler from Bethlehem to defeat the Assyrians if his words can be recovered from 5:5 through 6. In its present form, this whole passage, up through verse 5, has been reworked by later editors to the point of suggesting that Israel will produce rulers over Assyria.
Good luck with that.
What? But Assyria's gone. How are they going to do that now?
Well, yeah, now they can't, obviously.
They missed out. This is a very timely deal.
Syria is still here.
Assyria.
Yeah,
Syria.
but Syria is still here.
Okay, so Assyria.
One of them?
Yeah, Assyria. It has Damascus in it, and it's called Syria.
Sure, but it's not the kingdom of Assyria.
Okay.
Okay, then
glad
that's
we
not what they're
agree.
talking about then. All right. Let's
Good
continue here.
times.
So yeah, this is quoted in the New Testament. Let's see why. But you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah. It's like you're kind of useless right now. From you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days.
Right,
Oh, so
this-
I can clearly see why this is used in the New Testament.
Right. And it makes sense because it's David's hometown.
David, yeah, talking about the Davidic line here that has been, I guess, diminished over time, and now they're hoping from this Davidic line, with the dynastic promise, probably, they're hoping for just another Davidic king. Therefore, he shall give them up until the time when she who is in labor has given birth. Then the rest of his brothers shall return to the people of Israel. And he shall stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall dwell secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth.
It's highly unlikely that this is a prophecy of global empire commanded by the Davidic king. Rather, his reign will be so glorious that the fame of it will reach the ends of the earth, according to Alter.
I mean, it doesn't say that, but...
So
Yeah, but
Hoyt
that's not
breaks
what it
this up.
Well, I guess with the weird meaning of great, right?
Yeah. Well,
Frosted Flakes?
so Hoyt breaks this up and into a very strange way because it's like, verse 3a through b.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, it does kind of like stem off because you have like this thing about a woman in labor, right? And you have the brothers returning to Israel. You go into so the first part of verse 4 is like, look how great God is, and then it goes to being secure and being great to the ends of the earth. So it is kind of a bouncy text, so I can see why she did that.
Yeah, of course, she interprets this as a reference to Jesus all out. She literally says he is the second person of the Trinity.
Yeah, first of all, there are two things that I could say about this. One, sorry, Hoyt, that's not how history works. Although I understand, why a Christian would believe that. It doesn't really fall into good history for me. And second, how did she decide that it's the second person of the Trinity?
Well, you see, when the verse is read through the lens of the New Testament, the truth and fulfillment of these words is staggering.
Wow.
Jesus, the Messiah, does shepherd in the strength of Yahweh and the majesty of Yahweh's name because he is God. The fulfillment of these words is more marvelous than Micah's audience could have known.
Those are some good Frosted Flakes.
Wow. Yeah, sorry, Hoyt. Gonna press X to doubt.
Not only probably not, but also later edition. So
Yeah.
Great.
So
Good job.
let's and even if you're taking the view that this isn't a later edition, you know that the New Testament writers read these books.
Well, yeah, but that's
and
just so
quote,
they could confirm the facts of the case.
right? Of course, for confirmation, right? Okay, yeah.
I mean, Jesus was born speaking and walking and turning clay birds into living animals.
Yeah, that was the infancy gospel of Thomas, right?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was a good bit of fun to read.
We'll read it eventually on the show.
Let's and you know what? If we could because I think it was written in Greek, so I'll be able to help with that one as well. That's right.
You can translate live on the air from the original Greek.
Do you know how annoying it is? I've been translating Luke chapter 15 for my class for like the past week, because like you have to like hand it in sections and stuff. And I mean, some of it's kind of weird because it uses like an aorist, uses aorist tenses when it just should, where it's just used as a participle, as a non-aorist participle. It would be used there. So like it's I don't know, it's just kind of weird initially, but it's an interesting little section, and it takes a while to translate sometimes because you have to like take apart the word, and you have to find its root meaning, and then you can, once you know the root meaning and all the different not forms, you have the tenses and you know which person it is and the nominative, genitive, all that kind of stuff. Once you know all that stuff, then you can translate it, and even then it could be different because so it takes a while to like translate. But I could do some on the spot kind of stuff.
Well, continue reading.
I will. Okay.
Because I have commentary on this next verse.
Great. Okay. So this is verse 5. And he shall be their peace. When the Assyrian comes into our land and treads in our palaces, then we will raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 princes of men. Ooh, this is interesting.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
So wait, hold on. Can I take some guesses?
No.
You can guess.
All right. So this, I feel like it's completely disconnected from the other stuff. So you have the Assyrians coming in, and against them, I'm guessing you'd be listing the kings that popped up.
Well, let me tell you what Alter says and then what Hoyt says. Alter says the numeric progression from first verse to second is a familiar convention of biblical poetry. The 7 shepherds and 8 princes are, in all likelihood, foreign rulers allied with Judah. Princes of the peoples is literally princes of humankind, which would mean non-Judahites.
All right, okay.
Now, Hoyt has a few things to say. First of all, when they're talking about the peace, right? Well, they're talking about Assyria here. The mention of Assyria is an indication that this prophecy was given before Assyria fell, 612 BC. Otherwise, using a conquered nation would carry no weight in the prophecy. The hope comes from the promise of threatening powers being defeated, not conquested powers being defeated. There are 2 possible ways to interpret this verse. The first is that it refers to the actual nation of Assyria. The promised ruler will defeat Assyria when they attempt to attack Israel. The problem with this view is that Assyria was not defeated by a person from Israel, but by Babylon. Thus, if one understands this as literal Assyria, then the ruler of Babylon who defeated Assyria, Nabopolassar, must be viewed as the peace. The second option is to interpret Assyria as a type. That is, it symbolically represents all potential enemies of God's people in the present and future.
Of course.
Right? So those...
So, well, hold on. But in that case, you would just use the nations.
You usually would, yes.
So I don't know why.
But there are
Or
references,
author.
for example, to Egypt, where Egypt is a generalized type.
I guess, yeah,
Right?
that's true.
So it is possible to be interpreted
Sure.
that way. But here, Hoyt says, Yahweh will raise up 7 shepherds and 8 leaders of men. These 7 and 8 groups of leaders are likely not intended literally. Rather, this is a literary device, x plus 1, i.e. 7 plus 1 equals 8, used elsewhere in the Old Testament.
Yeah, we had that before. Was that in Amos?
Yeah, she notes it being used in Amos 1.
Yeah, although, what's interesting? I could also see how, I don't know if she comments on Revelation at all, but I feel like this could also be interpreted with, the 7, with the 7-headed dragon, right? And then you have like an 8th head. So it's
well, no, she doesn't take that view. She references a guy named Willis, J.T. Willis. Now Willis summarizes this point. Now, in my opinion, 7 shepherds and 8 princes of men does not necessarily refer to a plurality of persons. Rather, this expression may be an idiomatic way of saying that the leadership will be sufficient and adequate to any situation that arises.
okay. That would be, I guess maybe. I don't know. Although I'm not surprised that even though this could easily be connected with Revelation, and I think this is a big issue with Christian apologetics, is that they can make a connection that, like, well, yes, it is quoted
like
in the New
Assyria and a Syria.
like the part we were talking about before. Like, yeah, it is quoted in the New Testament, obviously. But there are plenty of things in the New Testament that weren't direct quotations that still obviously reference things in the Old Testament. And the thing is, they can draw those out pretty simply because there's a whole lot of them. But then this one, which I could see at least what's the word I'm looking for? Like on the surface,
a surface level.
Well, yeah, surface level. There's a word for it specifically. Whatever, surface level. All right, but it is a surface level.
A shallow.
Yeah, shallow. That's fine. Yeah. It would be a shallow interpretation. However, it's just interesting that they never talk about those because it would be weird, right, to have Satan be called upon here. Even though, like, the interpretation or the way to interpret it is kind of almost, it's very similar.
Right.
Unless you don't take the view, superficial. Yes, thank you. So if you don't take the view that the heads of the dragon don't, that they represent kings, then you could just have enough, enough of a power against the people.
Well, right.
In Revelation.
It's like in Tibetan Buddhism, you look at their texts. Now they'll say things like 100,000 or 100 million, and what they literally mean is a lot. Right. So if you look at it that way, they could be using it in the same way.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible.
Yeah, but I guess the bigger point I'm trying to get across is there's cherry picking, getting in a good amount of it. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So and 8 princes of men, they shall shepherd the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod at its entrances, plural. The land of Nimrod at its entrances. Okay.
Yeah. What verse?
That is verse 6 for me, but I guess it would be verse 5 for you potentially.
Verse 6, verse 5. Yes. Let's see. The land of Nimrod as its stories. This reading doesn't make much sense in the context, given the poetic parallelism. The unexpected and awkward doorways is confusing. The Septuagint with her ditch is awkward in context and thus unlikely. This reading likely came from a reading of the root of the Hebrew word, petach, or something like that, with metathesis as pichat, or pit. The Targum says, with the strength of her citadels. It's also awkward and unlikely. One does not shepherd an enemy in the land, an enemy land with the enemy's citadels, nor their own. Citadels are a method of defense, not offense, and defeating an enemy requires offense. Nor does this parallel with the preceding with swords, an offensive weapon. The Vulgate has lanceis, which translates as spears, and several other Greek manuscripts agree with the Vulgate.
What does Alter have a
Alter
different?
doesn't say anything about it.
Okay, does he have a different translation? Of
But he says, "And the land of Nimrod and its gateways."
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Nimrod, drawn sword, parallels nicely with the previous line, Assyria, sword.
And Nimrod was the hunter, right? In Genesis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it could be referencing like aggressive tribes around the place trying to get in. I don't know.
It could be the case, but I also want to point out that when it comes to Nimrod, there were a lot of different like legends, like completely apocryphal, right? Yeah. Which occurred in the region and the surrounding regions regarding Nimrod. So if this is a later edition, then there might be different ideas of Nimrod that occur. Like there's ideas of Nimrod as a king, like a king alive during Abraham's time, who Abraham like debates with, right? There's stories of Nimrod doing the furnace thing where he throws people into a furnace.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah. So there's like a ton of stuff out there about Nimrod that isn't biblical. So when they talk about Nimrod and it's a later edition, I'm not sure to what exactly they could be referring, right?
Yeah, and both
and
Dragons and Matthew pointed out these some other legends.
Yeah. And in addition to that, Hoyt points out the difficulty with the parallelism and the differences between manuscripts with these lines.
Yeah.
So
as is tradition.
Yeah. So why don't you continue then?
I will. And he shall deliver us from the Assyrian when he comes into our land and treads within our border. So it looks like this is a saving figure.
Mm-hmm.
So on to verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
Then the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples, like dew from the Lord, like showers on the grass, which delay not for a man, nor wait for the children of a man.
Yeah, so a future promise to Jacob has already occurred at 2:12. While the meaning of the references to the heads of Jacob in 3:1 and 9 has already been discussed, presumably in the present passage, Jacob is a way of referring to the whole people descended from Jacob, that is, both the northern and southern kingdom. Similarities between this passage and Isaac's blessing of Jacob in Genesis 27:27 through 8 have been pointed out. Both refer to his remnant/offspring ruling over the nations. This passage can therefore be taken as an allusion to or a version of the tradition about a blessing to Jacob, which functions here to reassure the people that it has a future in spite of being in exile.
Well, I think it would be easier to make the connection with, you have the multitude of nations, among the people, just so many people, basically the whole promise to Abraham, right? So, because it goes on to say, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the nations in the midst of many peoples, like a lion among the beasts of the forest, like a young lion among the flocks of sheep, which when it goes through, treads down and tears in pieces, and there is none to deliver.
Now, Alter points out about these beasts. The beasts are deer and other forest creatures vulnerable to fierce predation of the lion. In any case, there's a striking contradiction between the imagery of this verse and the preceding one.
Yeah, because the preceding one seems, well...
Yeah, first the people of Israel is figured as a gentle blessing, dew and rain for all the nations. Now it's depicted as a furious force destroying nations.
Maybe there's supposed to be it's supposed to be a storm, like a hurricane.
Maybe. Some have tried to reconcile the contradiction temporally. First, Judah will be a militant power, then after its victory, a beneficent presence. But if that's the prophet's intention, it remains puzzling that the dew image should precede the lion image. Now, Hoyt, really just talks about some linguistic stuff here. And
right.
It's not really of import here. But...
All right.
She does point out that 7 and 8 or 6 and 7, depending on which version you have, the verses are antithetical. Right? So there's lines like line 1, line 2, line 3.
Sure.
Right? They have similar linguistic features.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. Obviously, the thing is, so there. It's one of two things. It's either two ways of saying the same thing, although it's kind of strange, or you do have this temporal thing which isn't made clear.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That happens in ancient languages sometimes. The temporal feature of it isn't made clear. Like there's like, I mean, I can just talk about, ancient Greek here, but at least for ancient Greek, there are times where you have to like add in the words like after, or like after that, or when this has finished, stuff like that. You have to add that in because it's in the tense of the word, but that's not what the word in that tense usually means if it were somewhere else. So it completely depends. But yeah, sometimes the temporal dimension of it, I guess, isn't clear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was the same for Hebrew.
Now, you're about to get into a kind of a new section. The verses are much shorter.
Oh, I see that. Okay.
Yeah. And
well, I have to finish.
It's very formulaic.
I have to finish this section first.
Okay.
There's one last verse here in this. Your hand shall be lifted up over your adversaries, and all your enemies shall be cut off. So that was the ending of that part.
Mm-hmm.
So on to verse 10 here. And in that day, declares the Lord, I will cut off your horses from among you, and I will destroy your chariots. And I will cut off the cities of your land, and throw down all your strongholds. And I will cut off sorceries from your hand, and you shall have no more tellers of fortunes.
So from your hands is probably that you possess, although it may refer to the actual manipulation of divinatory instruments in the hands of the soothsayer.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So for that reason, the translation renders the idiom literally.
Yeah.
It could be either way.
Fair enough.
Oh, hold on. So the first thing that's cut off is their horses and chariots.
Yeah.
Then their tools of war. Then their false religions. Right.
Well, I mean, so you have the
sorcery and omen readers, right? It's unclear how sorcery is different from other similar practices by people such as magicians, but it would have included some form of either using powers from the gods or communicating with the deities or perhaps manipulating the deities. An omen reader likely either read signs or otherwise divine information from the gods. While the specifics of these types of people are unclear, what is clear is that Israel was not allowed to do these things.
Yeah, I'd say so. Except for that time Moses did it. That was fine.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but the Egyptians that he was talking to, well, that was bad that they were doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, speaking of the Lord and chariots. I do have that video on the Heavenly Horsemen. If anyone in the chat hasn't seen that yet, I do a deep dive into those divine equestrians.
Yeah. So this next verse, it breaks the formula a little bit.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
And I will cut off your carved images and your pillars from among you, and you shall bow down no more to the work of your hands.
Right. So this is a continuation of the previous line where it's the false religions that are being removed. Right. Here it's a reference to idolatry and the Asherah.
Yeah, because that's the next one here. And I will root out your Asherah images from among you and destroy your cities. And in anger and wrath, I will execute vengeance on the nations that did not obey. And that is the end of the chapter there.
Yeah, so we get this really striking kind of judgment that occurs here. Not uncommon in this kind of literature at all by any means. But interesting that they just kind of threw that together at the end. Right? Whereas previously, it's not so formulaic, but when we get to this judgment section, it's like, and I will do this, and I will do that, and so on. So it's almost like a mini psalm.
A little bit, yeah, I can see that.
But that is the end of the chapter.
And I hear something devastating. Oh, no.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Oh my God, Jesus! You scared me once again. I see that he's taken Reuben again. Jesus, come on, man, not cool. He's got to read the next section, next chapter here, but I guess he can't. However,
game over, we're done.
So yeah, he's completely disappeared. Perhaps he is off destroying the idols and whatnot. Maybe that's his divine mission. So on this next section here, whatever, this next chapter, shut up. So it's another covenant lawsuit against Yahweh's people, of course, and it focuses on a comparison between Yahweh's covenant faithfulness and Israel's covenant unfaithfulness. So I'm going to read a quick section here about the dating of this section. And perhaps I'll hit on that more from Erdman's, but this is at least from Hoyt. The dating of this oracle is unclear. Mays dates verses 1 through 5 to either the late pre-exilic or exilic period and identifies 6 through 8 as simply written in a later period. Others date verses 1 through 8 to somewhere between the 7th and 5th centuries BCE. That's Wolf. Smith dates it as early as the reign of Ahaz, so that's really early, in fact. That's actually during the time of Micah. Though more likely after 722 BCE. Mays dates the later portion of the oracle, verses 9 through 16, to near the end of the Babylonian conquest. And then, she goes off listing a whole bunch of different ideas about when it was written, and it it seems like she's even unclear about it.
Yes. I'm back.
Oh my God, you've returned.
Yes, I've returned.
When did you get here?
Well, I got here while you were reading.
Oh my God.
And I returned while you were reading.
What? Oh my God.
And I got back while you were reading.
Oh.
And I...
Stop.
It was 1 minute and 4 seconds ago.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Anyways, why don't I hop into chapter 6 then, so that we can make our way towards the end of this book. Because chapter 7's a long one in comparison.
That's perfectly fine.
Yes.
I probably deserve it.
Chapter 6. Hear ye now what the Lord saith. Arise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. Hear ye, O mountains, the Lord's controversy, and ye strong foundations of the earth. For the Lord hath a controversy with his people, and he will plead with Israel. O my people, what have I done unto thee? And wherein have I wearied thee? Testify against me. For I brought thee up out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed thee out of the house of servants, and I sent thee before Moses, Aaron, and Miriam.
It's interesting that Miriam is included there.
Yeah, usually you don't see Miriam.
Yeah, usually you really don't. So it's really interesting. Alter doesn't have a note on Miriam. Miriam is in verse 4, right?
Of course, Moses' sister.
Yeah. But we don't usually hear about her along with Moses and Aaron.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to find something on specifically why Miriam would have been mentioned here. Miriam's inclusion was not... Oh, okay. So it was not likely intended to remind the audience of the story she is most known for, attempting to usurp power and her resulting punishment of temporary leprosy. Such a reading does not fit the immediate context of the verse. The first 2 lines of this verse focus on the positive of how Yahweh brought his people out of Egypt. The focus...
10 likes and we'll flip the glass.
Yeah, you know what? That's perfectly fine.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
What a goal.
That's how we should do goals from now on. We gotta flip it.
You did it, folks.
20 likes and we'll flip it again.
Oh my God.
Jeez, in 10 minutes.
No. Even if we get there
Wow,
beforehand.
we'll flip it prematurely.
Yeah, we can shake it.
Wow, I feel like that throw off the timing.
Yeah, it would.
Oh, okay. Okay, so continuing on here. The focus in this verse is on how Yahweh sent each of the 3, not on the sins of the 3, of course. And if the negative story of Miriam is read into the passage, the same should be done for Moses and Aaron. After all, they were not without sin. Rather, since the first part of this verse focuses on a positive, and since the references elsewhere to sending Moses and Aaron are positive, it is best to understand this mention of Miriam as focusing on her positive role in Israel's exodus from Egypt. So Miriam was a prophetess who led people to worship Yahweh in Exodus 15. This corresponds with the Targum's added explanation. I sent before you my 3 prophets, Moses to teach the tradition of judgment, Aaron to atone for the people, and Miriam to instruct the women. Okay. Gotcha.
All right. O my people, remember now what Balak, king of Moab, consulted, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him from Shittim unto Gilgal, that ye may know the righteousness of the Lord.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We have the reference there to Balaam.
We really
and Balak.
don't often get references to Balak and Balaam.
Yeah, so straight out of Numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Balak's story is told in Numbers 22 through 24. Balak hired Balaam as a professional seer. And of course, Balaam is the guy who had the talking donkey.
Yes.
So,
wherewith shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before the high God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, or with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, and the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul?
yes.
Well,
It was rhetorical.
yeah, that's rhetorical. But, the first couple of things, he's definitely, that's why he gave Solomon wisdom, right? because of the thousands of animals that he sacrificed.
Yeah, that was really nice.
That's how you get all the wisdom points.
Exactly. He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. You know, he requires a lot more than just, like, not eating shellfish, not eating cheeseburgers.
Listen, there's
not
there are a lot of
planting
rules.
certain plants in fields.
There are a lot
not
of rules.
allowing the daughter of a priest to have intercourse. Yeah, the list goes on and on. Oh yeah, sell your slaves in this way for this much money. It's got to be
that specific way, and the women have to cost half as much as the men.
Yeah,
you gotta let him free if he loses like a finger or a tooth.
Right, if that's from you beating them.
Right.
Yeah.
If you hit him too hard,
that's
your fault. That happens. That's your fault.
They have special rules for each.
That's very shellfish of them.
But what does the Lord require of thee but to do justly and to love mercy and walk humbly with thy God?
If that's what you want to call it.
The Lord's voice crieth unto the city, and the man of wisdom shall see thy name. Hear ye the rod, and who hath appointed it? Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the secret and the scant measure that is abominable?
So you finished verse 9 already.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just finished verse 10.
Right. But from verse 9. So a man of insight shall see your name from this point through to verse 14. Textual problems abound. A man is added in this translation. So the voice of the Lord calls out to the town, and a man of insight shall see your name. Is added in this translation as an interpretive guess. The expression "see your name" might mean something like "recognize your power," but it remains obscure. Heed the rod. One surmises this is of course, the rod of wrath.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there are a good bit of textual issues. Maybe Hoyt has commentary on those. I'll check.
Okay. Well, I'll continue while you're checking. At verse 11. Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances, and with the bag of deceitful weights? For the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. Therefore,
they're cheating weight stones.
Yeah.
So they're fooling people.
Right. Therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, in making thee desolate because of thy sins. Thou shalt eat, but not be satisfied, and thy casting down shall be in the midst of thee. And thou shalt take hold, but shall not deliver. And that which thou deliverest will I give up to the sword. Thou shalt sow, but thou shalt not reap. Thou shalt tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil, and sweet wine, but shalt not drink wine. For the statutes of Omri are kept, and all the works of the house of Ahab. And ye walk in their counsels, that I should make thee a desolation, and the inhabitants thereof a hissing. Therefore ye shall bear the reproach of my people.
So of course, the house of Omri, or the practices of Omri. Omri, of course, the ruler of the Omride dynasty, really overlooked. Mm-hmm. Usually, there's a good chapter in Israel Finkelstein's book about the Omride dynasty. And then, of course, some of these people, and those who dwell in her into hissing, that being there's something to scoff at. Mm-hmm. We see that a lot. In Jeremiah, it was quite a bit.
And this is directed at the people of presumably the northern kingdom, Israel.
Right. Because Omri is the one who moved the capital, I think.
Yeah.
I forget where it was before, but he's the one who moved it to Samaria, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot of this sounds like that one curse. Is like, you'll sow but won't reap.
Right,
tread the olives and won't drink the wine, anoint the oil. You eat but won't be satisfied.
Yeah. It does sound a lot like that. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's the end of chapter 6.
Yes. If you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, neighbors, etc. We're about to hop into the final chapter of Micah.
Yeah, the final one. After I cough my lungs out.
Yeah, so with this final chapter of Micah.
You all right there, buddy?
No.
No? You're not all right?
No, I'm not okay. What?
Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie?
So for the first time in Micah, we have an extended passage in the first person. Whether it comes from Micah himself or a later prophet is disputed. Whatever its date, it's a dire description of the state of affairs in which all honesty and decency have vanished. No one can be trusted, and even families are an arena for strife. The poetry is powerful, from the opening description of the prophet looking in vain for justice as a hungry man might look for food after all the fruit trees have been harvested, to the likening in 7:4 of the most upright of the people, the Hebrew has a sense of being straight, to a thorn hedge, the Hebrew has some sense of being twisted and intertwined. The prophet may, of course, be exaggerating. Can no one be trusted? Are all families in a state of perpetual feud? Yet it is sometimes necessary to portray things in terms of absolute black and white. Reality is mostly gray, color which enables evil to merge with the background. Then it moves on from first-person address to the point of view of a city, most likely Jerusalem. The city recognizes its plight is deserved and a punishment from God. The recognition of acceptance of this is the ground of hope for restoration, for the city's plight is an indication not of the absence of God, but his presence and of his continuing a relationship with her. Then it goes into
abusive relationship.
A section where Jerusalem is fallen and will be rebuilt. And then it goes into a short section on God's mercy. And
sounds like how every one of these books that was at least of some length wrapped up.
You know what? Yeah, it kind of does. All right. So let's hop into chapter 7 here. And if if you guys are enjoying the stream so far, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, all that good stuff. It's really nice and it really helps us out. More viewer engagement means more popping up in suggested feeds.
So there were sorcerers and what? What was the other thing? Not oracles. They sign seers or something. What were they?
Oh, I mean, you have like there were sorcerers. You could have diviners. Are you looking for the exact quote?
Yeah. What was it?
And I will cut off the cities. Sorry. And I will cut off sorcerers from your hand, and you shall have no more tellers of fortunes.
Or soothsayers.
Soothsayers.
This
Yeah.
one. Look, it's going to be different in different translations. They all mean the same thing.
Dang.
Yeah.
I liked Reuben's, whatever it was. It had a cool word. Oh, well.
Soothsayers?
No. In the KJV, I think yours was different.
Might have been.
Oh, well. Moving on.
All right.
Here's the last chapter.
Woe is me!
This exclamation of lament only appears one other time. Job 10:15.
Huh.
In Job, it expresses what his reaction would be if he were guilty of what his friends accuse him of.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I have become as when the summer fruit has been gathered, as when the grapes have been gleaned. There is no cluster to eat, no first ripe fig that my soul desires. The godly has perished from the earth, and there is no one upright among mankind. They all lie in wait for blood, and each hunts the other with a net. Oh, that's like that thing in Proverbs.
Yeah, and of course, these are nets for catching birds and fish.
Yeah. Their hands are on what is evil, to do it well. The prince and the judge ask for a bribe, and the great man utters the evil desire of his soul. Thus, they weave it together.
Alter translates this as, "For evil their hands are skilled. The noble and the judge ask payment. The great one speaks the disaster he wants, and they pervert it for him." He says the Hebrew wording is odd.
They're corrupt. They're all corrupt. Don't you see?
Evil.
The text may be corrupt. The sentence doesn't properly scan as a line of poetry.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The best of them is like a briar. The most upright of them, a thorn hedge.
Yeah.
So even at their best, they're bad.
So in modern horticulture, hedges are usually straight, but what's envisioned here is an informal hedge made of brambles.
The day of your watchmen, of your punishment, has come. Now their confusion is at hand. Put no trust in a neighbor. Have no confidence in a friend. Guard the doors of your mouth from her who lies in your arms. What?
Guard the doors of your mouth from her that lies in
Who
your
lies
lap.
in your arms. Oh, or in
Guard
your lap.
lips.
Okay.
So the literal sense is guard the openings of your mouth. It means guard your lips.
So don't say something in particular, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
Hold back your tongue.
5 through 6 are warnings. They do not trust friends, companions.
Oh, wait, no. This is supposed to be like a sexual thing. Okay, so guard the doors of your mouth from her who lies in your arms. So you have like a relationship, but guard your actual mouth from their lips.
Well, perhaps.
I get it.
That's
the
what I'm
idea
getting.
is that they shouldn't confide in their spouses.
I mean, that works too, yeah.
It's like in Soviet Russia, where if you said something to a family member, you would be sent to Gulag.
And alternatively, Gulag will be sent to you.
Ah.
Now you live
Конечно.
in Gulag. This is Gulag now.
All right, continuing on here. Okay, this looks like it's going to be fun. For the son treats the father with contempt. The daughter rises up against her mother. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. You know what? Yeah, that sounds normal, doesn't it?
No.
Everyone hates their family?
No.
That's not normal?
I happen to like most of my family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Shit.
Happened to like in the past. A lot of them are gone, but the ones that are here are still good.
Well, this sounds perfectly normal to me. But as for me, I will look to the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me.
Okay.
I mean, that's the end of the section. I think this is where it does that shift.
Yeah, it does a shift now. We're in a totally different arena. Hoyt actually divides it before that verse.
Oh,
So,
okay. Unfortunate.
yeah.
All right.
So a specific enemy isn't named here. It might refer to Babylon due to Babylon's role in the exile of Judah. Another option is Edom, who played the role in Judah's capture by Babylon.
I mean, Edom has been a problem for a while now.
Forever
Yeah,
now.
of course, if you read Obadiah,
Yeah.
you know all about Edom.
That's all he rails on mostly.
Rejoice not over me, oh my enemy. When I fall, I shall rise.
So in the Hebrew, all of the verbs and nouns are in the feminine singular, reflecting the representation of the enemy's people as a female figure. This conventional mode of representing a nation becomes a means of dramatizing the relation between Israel and its enemies. The hostile nation is a woman who would gleefully mock Israel in its downfall, but who is destined to be humiliated and trampled upon, which, if Alter's interpretation is correct, that does sound more like Edom.
So rejoice not over me, O my enemy. When I fall, I shall rise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord will be a light to me. I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against him. until he pleads my cause and executes judgment for me. He will bring me out to the light. I shall look upon his vindication. Then my enemy will see, and shame will cover her who said to me, where is the Lord your God? My eyes will look upon her. Now she will be trampled down like the mire of the streets.
My eyes will look upon her. I will gloat over her. As before, this translation conveys the general sense of the idiom that is literally my eyes will see in her.
Oh, okay. Weird idiom, but okay. See, because here's how I was picturing it. He's walking down the street, and she's like, where's your God now? And then he has like this real anime moment where he looks up, like, stares into her soul. And it's like, you will be trampled over like mire in the street. That's what I was envisioning.
Of course.
A day for the building of your walls. In that day, okay, so it just says, it announces a day for the building of your walls in the very first part of verse 11.
The day for rebuilding your walls.
Oh, that's a little bit different. Okay.
Yeah.
In that day, the boundary shall be far extended. In that day, they will come to you from Assyria and the cities of Egypt. Oh, this is talking about a return now, obviously.
Yeah.
And from Egypt to the river, from sea to shining sea. It doesn't say shining sea. It just says sea to sea.
Yeah.
And from mountain to mountain. But the earth will be desolate because of its inhabitants, for the fruit of their deeds. So people were so horrible that everything it sucks now.
Yeah, and this verse belongs at the end of this prophecy of a grand expansion of Judah. It would mean that nations across the known earth will be subject to cataclysmic devastation as Judah triumphs. With that being said, we're now going into another section.
Is it going to be about Judah triumphing?
No.
Let's find out.
It's going to be about God.
Oh, okay. Shepherd your people with your staff.
Yeah, this is Micah petitioning Yahweh to protect his people.
The flock of your inheritance, who dwell alone in a forest, in the midst of a garden land. Let them graze in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old.
Bashan and Gilead are located in the northern kingdom in the territory of Manasseh and Gad, in the northern Transjordan, which had perfect land for sheep. The location is why some conclude that this oracle originated in the northern kingdom and not in the southern kingdom. That's possible, but it is equally possible that it was simply a well-known area for sheep, at best describe the image Micah wanted to present.
Sure. Yeah, I can see it both ways. As in the days when you came out of the land of Egypt, I will show them marvelous things. The nations shall see and be ashamed of all their might. They shall lay their hands on their mouths. Their ears shall be deaf. Oh yeah, just like what's the thing with the monkey, right? Like
see no evil, hear no evil,
speak no evil.
Yeah.
They shall lick the dust like a serpent, like the crawling things of the earth. They shall come trembling out of their strongholds. They shall turn in dread to the Lord our God, and they shall be in fear of you.
Yeah.
So
fairly straightforward.
Yeah. We want to go back to how things were in the past because the past was amazing, obviously.
Yeah, we want our football team to win the championship.
Don't we all?
No, I don't care.
I also don't care.
Well, obviously you're the reason why they didn't, because you didn't want it hard enough.
You know what?
Like Micah does.
You're probably right, yeah. I should have wanted as hard as Micah wanted
that. Makes me happy for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I think our team is the Packers.
Yeah, they like pack things.
Yeah.
And then we have those brewers.
Yeah, they brew things. Yeah.
And then we have some like animals like deer.
Yeah, we have the Milwaukee Deer. Yeah.
Yeah, but they actually won their.
Oh yeah, they did. That's true. Let's see.
Brought in a bunch of money for the city.
Yeah, let's see what else. We do have a real football team. I guess we do have a soccer team, right? The Milwaukee Wave.
Yes, the Hello.
Isn't that a horrible name? The Wave.
Yeah, hi.
And the whole gimmick for the Wave. I went to one game.
Yeah, I went to one game
when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I went with my cousin because he was he was really into it. And we just kind of went with our grandparents. And the entire gimmick of the Wave is just to do the wave.
Yep, the whole time. It's very tiring.
They've survived off of that.
That's all they need.
Apparently.
You know, if our audience could do the wave.
Do the wave right now.
Yeah.
Wait for it. Great job, guys. Yeah, Great job. That was amazing.
That was wonderful. I've never seen a wave.
You guys are just phenomenal. Okay.
Beautiful.
There you go. A very real cheer.
Yeah. Why don't you keep reading, Lauren?
Yeah, these last 3 verses. Who is a God like you, pardoning iniquity and passing over transgression for the remnant of his inheritance? You know, it's important that they added in that last section there, for the remnant of his inheritance. Otherwise, no, that rest of that stuff is not true.
Yeah.
He does not retain his anger forever, because he delights in steadfast love. No. That doesn't really seem like the kind of God that we just learned about.
No, it really
that reminds
doesn't.
me of that one piece of the 7 angel thing called Error.
Error.
Yes.
Yeah.
Error. I love that thing.
It literally said, I am error.
That was my favorite. I was like, wow.
Yeah, Testament of Solomon. Good stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
Join us for that next week, obviously.
He will again have compassion on us. He will tread our iniquities underfoot. You will cast all our sins into the depths of the sea. This is so weird because it goes from like speaking to God to talking about God, like in the third person. It goes from second person to third person.
Yeah, there's not really any commentary on that. Though the depths of the sea, even for readers today, this is a strong image. The depths of the ocean is far removed from our reach, and even with the amazing ocean exploration occurring today, precious little of the ocean has been explored. For the original audience in the ancient Near East, this image had an added layer. In their worldview, at the bottom of the ocean, under the rest of creation, was Sheol, the place of the dead.
Yeah.
To throw their sins into the depths of the ocean was to, in essence, send them to Sheol, to kill the sins, to remove their sin from the land of the living.
Yeah. So that makes sense, right? But what I'm wondering is why, out of all people, did Hoyt start talking about what we know about the ocean? Like when this should be pretty clear, like, talking about if you're throwing your sins into the ocean, that's already metaphorical. So the literally cannot be literal. So
it literally cannot be literal.
Exactly.
Quote of the week.
So
it is what it is. Why don't you read that last verse?
I don't know. I mean,
it's a common colloquialism. The last verse is.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
You will show faithfulness to Jacob and steadfast love to Abraham, as you have sworn to our fathers from the days of old, which are exactly those people. All right. Yep. That's it.
So we've finished the book of Micah. What do you think?
I think the second half was better.
You didn't like the first author. You liked the second author better.
Yeah.
First Micah bad. Second Micah good.
Real Micah bad.
I like the second half better is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's there are parts of it which are more original, and then a lot of it is just like shit we've seen before.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
there's just not a lot of originality to much of it.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll give it like a 3 out of 10.
I don't know if I go that low.
Like it's just it doesn't really do.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't do much. I guess
there's like not a lot of imagery that pops up that's distinctive, like especially in comparison to something like the Testament of Solomon.
Right. Well, yeah,
right?
But if you're comparing it to the Testament of Solomon, not much is gonna win over that.
It's just kind of like your typical boring God will punish the Israelites and then he'll punish the other nations and make the Israelites good, right? And that's what we get from much of this book.
Yeah,
It's some of it
definitely.
feels like it's placed here because it might be an okay transition to the New Testament. I don't know. It's starting to feel like
That's definitely not why it's placed there.
no, it's not why that's placed there.
No,
No.
it's placed here in the Hebrew canon. It
I
has
see.
nothing whatsoever to do with the New Testament.
Well, it did sort of have a shout out to Jesus slightly, maybe from
Well,
the
no, not really.
perspective
From
of somebody
Christian
who's looking
interpretation,
for it, from a Christian
because there is a
interpretation.
single reference to
Yes.
Bethlehem.
Yes, and a sheep and a shepherd.
Because you're
guy.
talking about the
They'll pick it. I'm not saying I will.
They're literally talking about the
Dynastic
royal
promise.
line
Yeah.
from David from Bethlehem.
yeah.
Yes, I'm aware.
So you would use the terminology.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I would give this. I guess a 4 out of 10. You know, it is the same stuff that we've seen over and over again, but I didn't mind some of the imagery. I thought some of it was kind of neat.
I'll give it a 2 out of 10.
Oh my God.
Lord.
I love how original the name of this
Bird.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
This magic card.
I don't know. It's a
They
token.
could have said pigeon or dove or something. It just says bird.
Technically, that's not even a card. It's a token.
Yeah, it's a token. But we have more original tokens than that in the game.
Yeah.
This is just a bird.
Bird.
Generic.
You know, I don't
Like
know.
Micah. Generic.
Yeah, that's how I'd rate Micah as generic.
I don't know what I would say my favorite verse is. I think I would have to just reread it again, and like I'd have to like go back and like look for. I'd have to keep that in mind.
Which
you know,
was your favorite
verse.
cavity? Did you know how what was your favorite hangnail or paper cut?
I
These are
definitely didn't have
questions
those.
that you shouldn't have to ask or answer.
My
But
favorite
Micah
verse
makes me question these things.
My favorite verse is chapter 6, verse 15. Thou shalt sow, but thou shalt not reap. Thou shalt tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil, and sweet wine, but shalt not drink wine.
Wow.
Wow, what a favorite verse!
Yeah.
Did you just pick that randomly?
Yeah,
Amazing.
because they're all basically shit we've heard before. So you might as well just pick something randomly, right?
Or nothing.
Just pick a violent one and call it a day.
Well, it is a curse.
Yeah, I suppose there's more cursey stuff in there though.
Yeah, there's more curses out there.
So
So
what do we got next week? Sunday. We've got more Apocalypse of Abraham on Friday.
Yeah,
no, we don't have the Apocalypse of Abraham.
and
on
sorry, a
Friday.
Testament of Solomon.
Sorry, Testament of Solomon. We finished the Apocalypse of Abraham. My
We
bad.
did, yeah. So the Testament of Solomon on Friday.
I
So
get those
next
two
week
mixed up.
we'll be reading the entirety of the book of Nahum,
Yes, we will.
and then the week after we'll be reading the entirety of the book of Habakkuk.
Yeah, not gonna be too bad. And I don't think there's much to say about Habakkuk. There might be some stuff in chapter 3. I remember I have referenced that in the past. And then we have Zephaniah, Haggai, and I think Zephaniah we'll do that and also in one, Haggai in one, and then Zechariah will be the last one there.
And this is it, guys. 14 pages in this
I guess
book.
the last long one, Zechariah, I should say.
Only 14 pages till we're at the end of the Old Testament. Look at this. This is what we have
A
left
pamphlet.
to read. You know where we started?
At the beginning,
Yeah.
unless I'm somehow
This is
misremembering
what we've
that.
read so far. this is what we have left to read.
Only took years.
Look at the difference between these two.
Yeah, that's
214 weeks.
Took quite a while to get to this point.
Well, we still have weeks left.
We do. Either way, excited to be getting into another book. Whatever. At least it won't be. I mean, hopefully it's not going to be the same thing. It might be almost the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised. Anyways, so yeah, that's the end of the reading for today, the end of the show today. And hey, if you guys enjoyed watching,
then you can find us on Patreon. The link's in the description, where you can get on the show. You can enter into a t-shirt giveaway, or you can just buy your own t-shirt from our stuff, like the thing that's about to be pinned right now. You can buy yourself the platonic form of the t-shirt. It is literally the perfect t-shirt. It is what a t-shirt is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's the t-shirt.
Yep.
Every time you have thought of a t-shirt, it's this. So you better get it.
Yep.
It'll show them what a t-shirt is.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, we have an Amazon wish list.
We do. Once again, link is in the description.
You can buy us books. We'll read them.
Yeah, we have lots of books. You can add books to the table. You could use them for sources in our long form videos that aren't the live stream ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Facebook and Twitter. Free to follow us on there.
Yep, totally free. Send your diss tracks to MilwaukeeAtheist@gmail.com.
Please send Lawrence diss tracks.
On a show.
That would be cool.
Some of you should reach out to G-Man and see if he'll make a Milwaukee Atheist diss track.
That'd be fun.
Or a Lawrence diss track.
That'd be cool.
Yep.
All right. Anyways, I think, that's all the shilling we have to do and all that stuff. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you on Friday.
And then Sunday. And then Friday. And then Sunday. And then Friday.
Twice a week.
And then